In the past week, an absolutely massive oil spill happened in North Dakota, which seems almost too good to be true for those of us who want the point to be made that the concerns over the Dakota Access pipeline, the damage that it could potentially do to that region, to the water sources in that region, need to be taken incredibly seriously. And we have reported about the literally hundreds of oil spills and leaks that happen in those states, in North Dakota and South Dakota, every single year. This one, a little bit bigger. 176,000 gallons of crude oil leaked from the Belle Fourche pipeline into the Ash Coulee Creek. So not only did it leak, but it leaked into a water source. That spread 6 miles from the spill site and contaminated an unknown amount of ground. Now, what's interesting about this is that we found out about this pipeline after the pipeline spill, after a landowner discovered it on December 5th. Because you would think that if a pipeline was to spill 176,000 gallons of crude oil, it would be national news and the company would have to report that. But no, somebody needs to actually wander across the now befouled natural land. And this is happening, by the way, 150 miles away from the ongoing protests at the site of the construction of the Dakota Access pipeline. Now, that is currently on hold. Thankfully, the protesters in that area have continued their vigilance in that area because we don't know what would happen if they were to leave. If the easement would be granted, we don't know what will happen after Donald Trump is sworn in. And so, of course, vigilance is of course called for. But it's almost perfect timing. Now, it's an obvious disaster, an absolute disaster. Now, it's not contaminating the same source of water that has been the cause for concern over the course of more than a year of protests. But still, it's a demonstration of how easily this sort of thing can happen. They said that it ruptured because a hillside went down a little bit. And so it was destroyed. And the Dakota Access Pipeline Company, they say, no, we've got leak detection equipment. And we're able to shut it down after just 3 minutes of it spewing thousands and thousands of gallons of crude oil into the water. I mean, to that company, what they're saying sounds reasonable. That having that much oil pumped into the water that your community depends on for its survival is okay if you just shut it off after a couple of minutes. Now, I would wonder if it was their water source, would it be okay that it's only a few minutes of oil being leaked into there? I don't think that it would be. I really don't. And sitting here not owning stock in any energy company, including one that profits off of fossil fuels, maybe I'm in a bubble where it's easy to look at the technological advancement that we're seeing, not just in America, but around the globe in terms of renewable sources of energy. When we're seeing the cost of solar energy nosediving, becoming so much more feasible to deploy that on a massive scale to take over for some of the non-renewable dirty forms of energy that we currently use now. When wind energy is becoming more and more possible, other countries are experimenting with incredible sources of energy generation that we don't have, like hot air kilns that go up. And it's just amazing technology, and you should look at it. And we're still having debates over 6-inch oil pipelines so that some fucking company can make a little bit more in profits for the next few years before they finally have to tap out when we've destroyed our natural environment. It's the most petty, tiny little fucking financial perspective against the entirety of the earth. And if you don't have a stake in the money and you're able to just focus on the earth, it seems like the most unnecessary debate in human history. And that's what it is. It is that fucking unnecessary. Because I don't benefit off of that monetarily. You don't benefit off that monetarily. They do. A very small number of shareholders and members of the board make a little bit of money off of that. That's irrelevant to the world as a whole. And we understand as a culture that if you're doing something that profits you, that's perfectly okay. But if you're doing something that harms others, then of course it cannot be allowed to continue. Although we have this weird gap in our understanding of that, where if who you're hurting is everybody, then it becomes okay again. But it's not okay. Okay, this demonstration right here, 176,000 gallons of crude oil spilling into the land and water, both as a reminder of not what could happen if the Dakota Access pipeline is finished, but what will inevitably happen. In a state that is known to have countless oil leaks and spills, it cannot be allowed to finish. It is a clear and present danger that has to be shut down. And only once it's shut down can we take a step back and look at the more monumental struggle that we're currently engaged in to bring our energy development and consumption into some rational alignment with reality. This is madness. We need to move forward.